Hey guys, what's up? It's me, People25 here, and today I am bringing you a Wild Thing review. This is a Morgan hypercoaster at Valleyfair in Shakopee, Minnesota. I rode this in June of 2017, this past June, and I'm gonna give my full thoughts about this. It's a fun ride, I will say that. I'll go into it in detail, but first I'll have a quick little content update regarding future coaster reviews. It's minor, but I'm considering dropping the reverse alphabetical format and switching to viewer demand. So if you guys want to see certain coasters, I will happily take requests. However, they're limited. The parks, I'm not going to be able to do all the parks I've been to. I am able to do Six Flags Great America, Cedar Point, Six Flags New England, with the exception of Joker and Goliath, Carowinds, Busch Gardens Tampa, Valleyfair, Nickelodeon Universe, Kings Island, Six Flags Magic Mountain, and Knott's Berry Farm. And of course, at this point, I cannot do any parks with new for 2018 editions, such as Steel Vengeance and Hang Time. So, yeah, that's basically it. I also can do Revenge of the Mummy at Universal Studios Hollywood, if you so want that. I mean, I'll do this only if I get enough votes. I don't know what the turnout will be for these. If I don't get any turnout, I'll probably choose the next one, which I actually have a fairly decent lineup coming up for the next 5. If I were to keep going in reverse alphabetical, the next 5 reviews would have been an X2 review, Accelerator review, Wicked Twister review, Six Flags Magic Mountain's Viper review, and Vortex at Kings Island's review, being the second Viper and second Vortex I've reviewed. I actually would have done Wicked Twister a lot sooner, but I didn't want to make it so close to my V2 review that went up last year. So, yeah, I really hope you guys partake in this extra little addition to my channel. I want to get you guys involved a bit more. I mean, I know you guys probably want to see things that I probably wouldn't ever get to, because another problem with the old format is with every new park I visit, I have extra credits to list. So therefore, I can get to things that are like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all that stuff. I can get to Diamondback, Banshee. I can go straight to the M's with Millennium Force, Maverick, Mystic Timbers. I can do Joker. I can do more Great America content if you want to see my thoughts on my home things. Fury, Renegade, all sorts of great coasters. Instead of focusing on ones just going in an order, you can choose for me. You have the freedom of choice for this. And I'm perfectly up for whatever. You can make me do the worst coasters I've ever been on, like Mind Racer at Six Flags New England, or Green Lantern at Six Flags Magic Mountain, or Coast Rider at Knott's Berry Farm. You can make me do the best, the worst, the mediocre, or just one of your personal favorites within the limitation of these 10 parks. Or 11 if you want me to do Revenge of the Mummy, the only credit that I was looking for at Universal Studios Hollywood. So once again, I really hope you guys partake in this little addition. And as always, I hope you guys enjoy the video. We're going to get right into this with Valleyfair's Wild Things drop. Now, I believe the drop is very different, depending on where you sit. The front row is where you experience some hang. Since the train is like 15 rows long, or something, it's like ridiculously long. It's a longer train than most other things. It is like comparable to, it's basically a mishmash between an Intamin hyper and an Aero hyper. It's more like an Aero. Those have the really long trains. So you're gonna get different drops instead of like a B&M where the drops are pretty similar and this is the pre-drop. So I think that they kind of hang you over the hill a little bit in the very front, and in the very back the drop is kind of snappy. You get chucked over the crest down the drop. The drop is better in the back, but I think in the front the drop is still respectable, especially since you can feel the 70-mile-an-hour speed you're partaking in. It's really good. I mean, the drop isn't the best in the world, but it's a solid 8 out of 10 drop. 7 out of 10 if I was feeling, I wish I could ride it again, since I have to recall from June, only going off notes. It's been almost 3 months since I visited Valleyfair, and I remember more about other rides. But Wild Things drop was pretty good. Intensity, I'm just gonna say that this thing's not very intense, plain and simple. The ride's pace is very sluggish. The elements are like, they take easily a few seconds to get through each of them. It's not back to back to back to back like B&M Inverts or Magnum, another similar hypercoaster. It's basically the first half is fixated on floater airtime, one floater airtime hill, and a bunch of slow helixes. a mid-course brake run that slows you to a crawl, and then a bunch of slowly, like, poorly paced bunny hills in the back. And I'll get to those later. Even in the back, I don't think you pull a lot of G's in this thing. I don't remember graying out on Wild Thing at all. Even if I was sitting in the back, the helixes aren't that forceful. And the fact that the ride experience is kind of sluggish, even though it is going 70 miles an hour, like it's so spread out. I think that really, I don't think the intensity is above average. The intensity is below average on this one. It's a considerable amount of time to get from one element to another. Just like I said, the ride is very spread out, and this thing's not very intense at all. So I give it a 4 out of 10. Like, the speed makes it the most intense part. Next up is the duration. Looking at a POV of this thing, the disengagement from the lift hilltop to the final brake run. Wild Thing lasts approximately 68 seconds. This is a slide I typed up in like 30 seconds, so pardon the grammatical errors, because I almost forgot to put this in the slide, and I'm like, ah, crap. But yeah, 68 seconds was the number I got. That's the important part. Don't worry about the rest of it. The ride does, because of the slow pace, it is a long ride. It's well above average, and it will be rewarded for its long duration. It is the longest ride experience in the park, I believe. So yeah, we're going to give it an 8 out of 10 for duration. So far, the ratings are positive, except for the intensity, but we're going to go right to another below average rating with the airtime. Honestly, my main concern and my main criticism against this ride is the absence of airtime. I will say the first airtime hill, if you see the picture, it's after the drop. That airtime hill in the front, you get some good floater airtime. The helixes don't really have any air. You don't really get a pop into the mid-course brake run since you're really coasting into that mid-course brake run. And those bunny hills, those camelback hills towards the end, you get no airtime on those. I thought they'd deliver some good airtime, like similar to Magnum. But nope, you get pretty much no airtime on those. You don't really even feel your stomach floating into your chest cavity. It was extremely disappointing considering how promising they looked from afar, having never ridden a Morgan hypercoaster at this point. Now, if this is what every Morgan hypercoaster is like, I think I can say that I'm going to be pretty disappointed. And I rode this in the front and back row, so I didn't experience really that much airtime. I think it was a little better in the front, but really there was barely any airtime, especially compared to the first hill. I just want to give it below average. That's another 3 or 4 out of 10. I'm just going to go 4. The number doesn't matter because I'm just giving you a scale. Like, there's really no airtime, and I was extremely disappointed coming off of this ride both times. I was expecting better. So, yeah. That's kind of my main thing against this ride. It doesn't have any airtime where you think it should. Next up, we have the smoothness. This ride is not butter smooth, but it's still really smooth. This thing was built, I think, late 90s, early 2000s. And it was smoother than I had expected it to be, considering the only similar-esque ride I've been on was Magnum, which was not smooth at all. The ride has a few bumps every now and then. It's kind of jerky if you ride in the back, but still, it's very comfortable, enjoyable. I think in terms of smoothness, the ride is enjoyable and the ride is comfortable. We'll go more into depth in the next category. But yeah, I think this ride gets a 9 out of 10 for smoothness. Really, the best elements of this ride are the drop and its comfortability. It's a long ride that's comfortable and has a pretty good drop in the back row. That's really the gist. That's really the thing you can pull out of it. And the restraints, another 9 out of 10 here, just like smoothness. The restraints are quite comfortable. They are U-bars, but they are padded, and you don't have to worry about your legs being tossed into the sides of them, like some other U-bars you have to worry about, because it's not really a rough ride. The transitions aren't jerky or unexpected or sudden. I have no gripes with the lap bars. They weren't tight. I had lots of leg room. I had no gripes with them. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 because B&M clamshells are the only things I'll get 10 out of 10 because they work very well for your shins. And due to the absence of airtime, you don't have to worry about the restraints getting in the way of airtime, kind of like RMC restraints might do to you sometimes. That's only because the airtime is so forceful. If RMCs without airtime would just be terrible. I just realized that. All thoughts aside, we're going to move into our final category, which is the absence of theming. It's supposed to be themed to some sort of feral, wild beast or creature is what I'm getting at. The photo booth has like a couple scratch marks, and like it's a wooden shack, and really, I think the theming has like some sort of claws, but really, that's not about it. There's no theming in the queue. It's just switchbacks. It's just metal switchbacks, and the ride isn't even that wild paced. It's like I addressed that in the intensity. The ride doesn't even feel that wild. It's more graceful than wild, in my opinion. In a nutshell, like, just gonna say that outright, this thing has no identifiable theme. Well, it's identifiable, but no present theming. They didn't even try with this one. Uh, Valleyfair doesn't really have a single well theme. It doesn't. I don't even think it has a single well themed coaster. No, I don't think any coaster in that park has any good theming. Renegade is the best theming, and at best, a 3 out of 10. So yeah, there's no theming on these things. So overall, we have a total of 43 out of 70 possible points, meaning an average score of 6.142 out of 10, rounding to the nearest 1 or 0 place. And honestly, this ride is not bad, but it's pretty mediocre in my opinion. Hence, it's why it's getting a 7.5 out of 10. I mean, it's especially for a hypercoaster. I was expecting a lot better going into this because I'd only ridden one bad hyper at that point, which is Magnum, the first, because it's rough and hadn't been on Desperado or hadn't been on Big One or any of the Aero hypers. I hadn't been on a single Morgan hyper at that point as well, so I was expecting quite a bit. It looked fun from the POVs, but the forces are a lot different there than it was in the POVs. I recommend grabbing all the credits, of course, when visiting Valleyfair, but particularly pertaining to this thing, I recommend riding this thing twice if the line's reasonable. Once in the front and once in the back. If it's like, I wouldn't wait more than like 20 minutes for this thing, if even. You want to get all the credits and you want to stay for a little longer, I recommend just doing some of the flats or spending the rest of your time on Renegade. Because Renegade is the only good ride in the park. Or, of course, eating or drinking. Like, maybe check out their Extreme Scream and Swing, which has a really disappointing ride cycle. Or check out their Shoot the Chutes, because they're all going to die very soon. Or check out North Star, which is going to have the longest line of the park. Maybe re-ride Steel Venom. Maybe not. I don't know. Some might say that Steel Venom's better than this thing. So, on that bombshell, let's just say this video is over. If you guys have enjoyed, feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscription. I hope you guys have a great insert unit of time here,